Welcome to This Week in Christian History, a podcast from the Center for Christian History at Mississippi College. The Center for Christian History is dedicated to expanding knowledge and understanding of Christian history. Our mission is to provide a scholarly, unbiased look at the events, figures, and movements that have shaped Christianity over the centuries. You can visit centerforchristianhistory.com for daily historical highlights. And each week on this podcast, we'll do a deep dive into key moments with Christian history's leading authorities. First up on our list of historical highlights for the week is the execution of Thomas Cromwell, a leader of the Protestant Reformation in England and the chief advisor to King Henry VIII. Though Henry was mostly unconcerned with Protestantism, he cared deeply about controlling the Church of England. In contrast, Cromwell was firmly committed to the spread of Protestantism. This conflict climaxed when Cromwell refused to accept Henry's desire to divorce his fourth wife, Anne of Cleves, and Cromwell was executed on July 28, 1540 for betraying the crown. Next up on our list of historical highlights and the subject of our deep dive is the ordination of the Philadelphia 11. On July 29, 1974, 2 years before the General Convention of the Episcopal Church of the U.S. approved the ordination of women, 11 women were ordained as priests at the George W. South Memorial Protestant Episcopal Church of the Advocate in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. These women would come to be known as the Philadelphia 11. Last up on our list of historical highlights for the week is the authorization of the official U.S. motto. The phrase, "In God We Trust," has long been quoted as the U.S. motto and has been printed on U.S. currency since 1864, but it didn't become the official U.S. motto until July 30th, 1956, when Congress passed a joint resolution authorizing it to become so. Today in our deep dive, Nick Walters, director of the Center for Christian History, talks with the Reverend Canon Elise Johnstone of St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church about the Philadelphia 11.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Christian History, and we are enjoying ongoing conversations when we get to take something particular that happened in this upcoming week and be able to use that as a marker or a spot to kind of do a deeper dive and learn a little bit more information than we knew before we all got started. So our episode for this week is centered around July 29th, 1974, and it is around what is commonly known as the Philadelphia 11. And these were 11 women who were ordained as priests in the Episcopal Church. And somebody who knows a good bit about that and also maybe even stands on some shoulders of some of those women is Canon Elise Johnstone, who is the rector at St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church in Seattle. So Canon Johnstone, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's good to be with you, Nick. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I didn't miss your title up, did I? Or your spotted in the rest of that? Okay. Hot diggity. All right. So tell us just kind of what's so important about this, right? I mean, this whole idea of these women and the timing of all of that, maybe, and why it would be anything that we would even think about in church history.
Very good. Well, so I think it's incredible. From a vocational perspective, I think this event is incredibly important.
Right.
I've been an Episcopal priest for, 19 years. I was ordained as a transitional deacon about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And that is how I have been living out my life with the gifts that God has given me in serving congregations and Episcopal dioceses for these last 20 years. And so that's very personal, right? But it's also connected to a wider community of believers. And so the Episcopal Church, I think, had been wrestling with the question of who is called to be a priest, who is called to celebrate the Eucharist, to administer the sacraments in those ways, and so the Episcopal Church had actually been setting aside women as deaconesses, and that's a very specific term, deaconess, for a long time before 1974. I don't know how nitty gritty to get here.
Get as nitty or as gritty. We're
Okay,
all
well,
about it.
so in 19 basically women were allowed to be ordained as deacons before 1974, but not long before. But up until that point, they were only able to be set aside as deaconesses. And that was more of a commissioning and a setting aside as opposed to the term ordination.
Gotcha. For their service, right? I mean, just so that they would do maybe back to the diakonos, right? Or part of that meant, hey, we recognize that you've got these, I'm putting words in the mouth, but I'm just saying that we recognize that you have this ability to be able to be called and to serve within your local church. And so we want to be able to give you this designation. Is that maybe the right word? Okay.
Yes, I think that's fair. Yes, and because there was a recognized gift of service on behalf of these women who were deaconesses. I think about one particular deaconess, Anna Alexander, who served in rural Georgia. She was the church's, I believe, only African American deaconess, and she served the families who were essentially sharecroppers, and she taught countless people how to read,
There
and
you go.
and then led a school and really helped people in a very oppressive situation to be able
Sure.
to have some doors unlocked, those doors through education and as well as connecting people to the faith.
Gotcha.
So there were women like Deaconess Alexander, who for many years were doing that kind of work of service, of serving those who were poor, in need, in different ways. And so the church had experienced women's leadership and service in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And people had really started looking, it was really many years before 1974, what is to prohibit this? And there wasn't a whole lot that people could really concretely come up with, rather than it's just maybe not the right time to approach it, right? And so given, I think, some of the energy and momentum of the civil rights movement,
Mm-hmm.
of the women's movement, kind of that growing energy, as well as the fact that the church had these wonderful, faithful servants as deaconesses. And then in addition to that, we had women's religious orders, so Episcopal nuns, if you will. And then we had we had lay orders where women would make a vow to commit themselves to prayer and service. One of the ones that comes to mind is an order called the Daughters of the King. And so we had women who were really sharing their gifts and really helping the church to follow the mission that God had set before us. And so I think there was just an emerging energy. And so once the General Convention, which is the governing body of the Episcopal Church, permitted that women could be ordained as deacons, and that is a specific role in the Episcopal Church, and I can talk about that if that's helpful at some point. But then there was a realization of further momentum. Another piece is that in 1970, the Episcopal Church's governing body, a General Convention, officially seated the first female voting lay members of the convention. And so there was also, that also helped the movement with all of the other things that were happening, leading up to that point. And so that momentum can just continue to grow.
How about that? Well, now, what do you call those within the Episcopal Church? The Episcopal Church is kind of like the Methodist Church in the sense that there's kind of bicameral, right? I mean, you've got like for the convention and the governing spot, and I may be getting a little bit ahead of here, but that's kind of the laying the ground of kind of where we're headed. So we're not talking about women being bishops at this point, not anywhere here at this time frame, but we are saying that in 1970, the General Convention then, and what do you call the uh, people who are the lay people that
Oh,
are
well, deputies. There's so that
deputies? Okay, so
yes.
those deacons, those women deacons were not only recognized as deacons, but were also made deputies during that
Well,
70,
no,
or was that in
these would
72?
be other women. These would be other women who were lay
Ah,
primarily. Well, there might have been. I have to look and see if there's any
well,
overlap, but primarily we're looking at lay women who were leaders in their local congregations and dioceses,
gotcha,
who were voted upon by their diocese to represent their diocese at the church-wide level,
gotcha.
at the General
And
Convention.
had they been allowed to do that for some period of time, or was that
There
all kind of
was
within the same time frame?
That was so there was, if I remember correctly, there were at least a few women, and I want to say it's in the late 30s, early 40s,
Oh, wow. Okay.
who's the one I'm nearly positive there was a lay woman from, I think it was Missouri, who served as a deputy. But there was no prohibition against it,
Gotcha.
but when then it was tried,
Right.
there was some pushback, right? Like, and so then there was not a continuity of a large number of female deputies. There was, like I said, there was that pushback once the one or, and again, not that many who had been elected to serve in that capacity. Once that happened, again, there's the pushback. So it was 1970 that those lay women were indeed
I got you.
that,
Okay.
and there was a decent number, a notable number of women who served in that capacity. And so the Episcopal Church's that General Convention is, as you said, bicameral. So there's the House of Deputies, and the House of Deputies actually has two orders, the lay order and then the clergy order.
Okay.
Is heavily priests, but not exclusively priests. So in the sense that deacons and priests would be considered people who could be serving in the clerical order in
Gotcha.
the convention. So that the House of Deputies is half clergy, half laity, and then the House of Bishops is, well, as its
Right.
title reads, is made up of bishops.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, so that was another shift that happened in 1970, was the notable number of female lay deputies. And then there was this movement that there was a vote that nearly passed in 1970 to allow women to serve as priests. And then, but it didn't pass. But again, there was a lot of energy.
Sure.
And then in 1973, it came back for a vote. And, as you do a lot of work with history, Nick, sometimes when you start something, sometimes there's a little bit more
Okay.
pushback, right? And so there was some pushback, right? In
Right.
1973. And so that was very discouraging. I think that pushback. And so again, there was this realization that there's really not a whole lot of actual prohibition, rather than the official sanctioning, if you will. And so there were a number of women and men. I don't want to say it was just women.
Sure.
Because it wasn't, but it was, and again, the documentary very much shares the story of these just really incredible women, and the amount of advocacy, education, community building, coalition building that happened, that was, I think, done very faithfully, done prayerfully, with really trying to follow where these women saw God calling them to be, trailblazers in this regard. And so let's see here. Oh, I've lost my thought there for just a second. And so they, in 1974, they knew that it should be more than one. It should be a group of women. And in the Episcopal Church, you need to have all ordinations happen by a bishop. Like, I mean, that's the word Episcopal,
Sure.
the Greek word episkopos, meaning overseer or bishop, right? So we're a church of bishops. And so you have to have one bishop to ordain either a deacon or a priest. You have to have 3 bishops present to ordain a new bishop.
You can watch the rest of Nick's interview with the Reverend Canon Elise Johnstone on the Center for Christian History website at centerforchristianhistory.com. This Week in Christian History is produced for the Center for Christian History by Blue and Gold Media at Mississippi College, in cooperation with the MC Department of Communication. For episode transcripts and more information, visit centerforchristianhistory.com. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow the Center for Christian History on Facebook at the Center for Christian History, and on Instagram at Christ Hist Today. That's ChristHistToday. Our next podcast episode is coming next week. Thank you for listening.